The day the aliens came to Earth started like any other for Jack Mitchell. He woke up, drank his coffee, and drove to work at the engineering lab in Kansas City. The radio talked about strange signals from space, but Jack paid little attention. Space stuff was for NASA people, not regular engineers like him. That changed when his boss called everyone into the conference room at noon. On the TV, the President of the United States was making an announcement. A large ship had entered Earth's orbit. Aliens were real, and they wanted to talk. "Citizens of Earth, this is a historic day," the President said. "The visitors call themselves the Zelnari. They come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." Over the next week, news channels showed nothing else. The Zelnari ship hovered above the Atlantic Ocean, its smooth purple hull gleaming in the sunlight. The aliens sent messages explaining they were part of something called the Galactic Confederation, a group of species that work together across the stars. 2 weeks later, Jack received an email that made no sense. The government wanted him to come to Washington, D.C. immediately. When he arrived, he found himself in a room with 30 other humans, scientists, soldiers, and language experts. A stern woman in a suit explained why they were there. "The Zelnari have requested to meet a diverse group of humans. Each of you represents something unique about our species. Mr. Mitchell, you were chosen for your problem-solving skills and your work on adaptive technologies." Jack laughed. "There must be a mistake. I just fix things that break." "Exactly," the woman replied. "You understand how to make things work when they shouldn't. That's rare." 3 days later, Jack stood with 5 other selected humans on a beach in Florida. They waited as a smaller alien ship descended from the larger one above. It landed softly on the sand, making almost no sound. The door opened, and 3 Zelnari stepped out. They stood about 5 feet tall with slim bodies covered in smooth blue-green skin. Their heads were slightly larger than human heads, with 4 small eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. They had no visible nose, just small slits, and their mouths were tiny. The lead alien wore a silver robe with strange symbols. It held up a small device that translated its clicks and whistles into English. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Vrelk of the Zelnari Diplomatic Corps. We welcome you to the greater galactic community." The humans clapped politely. Jack studied the aliens with fascination. They moved carefully, almost like they were afraid of breaking something. Ambassador Vrelk continued, "We have studied your civilization from afar. Your rapid technological development has earned notice from the Confederation." Jack noticed how the aliens used scanning devices before touching anything, even the ground beneath their feet. They wore thin gloves and moved with extreme caution. During the formal introductions, Jack stepped forward when his name was called. "Jack Mitchell, mechanical engineer." Ambassador Vrelk blinked all 4 eyes in sequence. "We are particularly interested in your problem-solving methods, Engineer Mitchell." Humans approach challenges differently than most species. After the ceremony, the ambassador made an announcement. "We invite 6 humans to visit our vessel for a cultural exchange." Jack's name was on the list. Before they left, Ambassador Vrelk gave them important advice. "The most critical rule aboard our vessel is Safety Protocol A1. Never touch anything unfamiliar without proper analysis. Our environments evolved separately, and what is harmless to one species may be dangerous to another." The alien looked directly at Jack. "We have observed that humans have a tendency to examine objects with their hands. This practice must be suspended while aboard our ship." Jack nodded, but inside he was smiling. The aliens seemed unnecessarily worried. How dangerous could touching things really be? As they boarded the shuttle to the main ship, Jack's fingers itched with curiosity. This was going to be interesting. The shuttle ride to the main Zelnari ship took 20 minutes. Jack sat next to Dr. Olivia Pearson, a xenobiologist with bright eyes and a serious expression. The other humans looked nervous, but Jack felt only excitement as Earth grew smaller below them. "This is better than any roller coaster," Jack said as the shuttle docked with a soft bump. Ambassador Vrelk led them through sliding doors into a large room with purple walls that seemed to glow from within. The air smelled like mint and something else Jack couldn't name. "Welcome to the Celestial Harmony," said Vrelk. "This vessel has been modified for your comfort. The air mixture matches Earth's, though slightly enriched with oxygen." A group of Zelnari waited for them. Each wore thin gloves and carried small scanning devices. One stepped forward and bowed. "This is Science Officer Neth," Vrelk explained. "She will give you your orientation." Neth spoke in a higher-pitched voice than Vrelk. "Humans, we are pleased to host you. Before we begin, you must understand our safety procedures." For the next hour, the humans watched demonstrations about Zelnari safety rules. Jack tried not to yawn as Neth explained again and again why they should never touch anything without permission. "Our species evolved different biochemistry," she said. "What is harmless to us may harm you. What is harmless to you may harm us or our equipment." Jack noticed how every Zelnari moved with careful precision. They scanned objects before touching them. They wore gloves when handling shared items. They stayed a precise distance from each other. "Man, they're careful," Jack whispered to Olivia. "They evolved on a world with many toxins," she whispered back. Their caution kept them alive. After the orientation, the humans were shown to their quarters. Jack's room was larger than his apartment back home. The bed looked normal, but everything else was slightly different. The desk was too low, the chair too narrow, and the lights too bright. "These are your living spaces," Neth explained. "They have been adjusted to human preferences based on our research. You may rest here when not participating in exchange activities." She pointed to a panel near the door. "This communicator connects to our central system. If you need anything, press here." Before leaving, Neth reminded them once more. "Remember, do not touch anything outside your quarters without first consulting the Zelnari guide." When the door closed behind her, Jack waited 5 seconds before grinning widely. Finally, he said to the empty room. He immediately began exploring, running his fingers along the walls. The surface felt warm and slightly soft, almost like touching skin. He pressed a panel next to what looked like a closet. The wall slid open to reveal clothes in approximately his size, but made of material he'd never seen before. He picked up a garment that might have been a shirt and put it on over his own clothes. It adjusted to fit him perfectly. "Cool," he said, touching every button and switch he could find. In the bathroom, he found fixtures that resembled earth plumbing, but worked differently. When he waved his hand near the sink, water flowed up instead of down, forming a floating bubble. He stuck his finger in it, and the water wrapped around his hand without getting him wet. "This is amazing," he said, wondering what else he could find. As Jack explored, he noticed something strange. Every time he touched something new, a faint hum seemed to run through the walls. Lights flickered briefly before returning to normal. He pressed his palm against a blank wall section, and to his surprise, the wall became transparent, revealing the stars outside. When he removed his hand, the wall became solid again. "That's not supposed to happen," he said, placing his hand on the wall again. The stars appeared once more. Jack heard a soft alarm sound from somewhere in the ship. He quickly removed his hand, and the wall returned to normal. His heart beat faster as he realized the Zelnari might know what he was doing. There was a knock at his door. Jack quickly took off the alien shirt and smoothed his hair. "Just a minute," he called, trying to sound innocent. Beyond the door stood Dr. Pearson with a concerned look on her face. "Jack," she said quietly, "what are you doing in here?" "The aliens are running around like crazy. Something's activating all over the ship." Jack pulled Dr. Pearson into his room and closed the door quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, but his face gave him away. Olivia crossed her arms. "Don't lie to me, Jack. The Zelnari are running scans all over the ship. They say dormant systems are waking up on their own." Jack looked at his hands. "All I did was touch a few things. How was I supposed to know the walls would react?" You were supposed to follow the rules, Olivia whispered harshly. You heard them say it 10 times. Don't touch anything. Jack sat on the edge of his bed. I know, but don't you think they're being too careful? I just wanted to see how things worked. Olivia was about to argue when the lights in the room changed color, shifting from white to a soft blue. Both humans looked up. Did you do that? Olivia asked. Jack shook his head. Not on purpose. A gentle voice filled the room. It wasn't speaking English, but somehow they understood it. Human biosignature detected. Access granted to Level 1 systems. Jack and Olivia stared at each other in shock. What was that? Jack whispered. I think it's the ship's computer, Olivia said. But the Zelnari never mentioned an AI system. Jack stood up and walked toward the wall he had touched earlier. Maybe they don't know about it. He placed his palm against the wall again. This time, instead of showing the stars, the wall displayed what looked like a map of the ship. Sections lit up in different colors. This is incredible, Olivia said, her anger forgotten. She moved closer to look at the map. The ship is responding to you specifically. Jack removed his hand, and the map disappeared. Should we tell the Zelnari? Olivia thought for a moment. Not yet. They might send us back to Earth immediately. Let's figure out what's happening first. A sharp knock at the door made them both jump. Jack gestured for Olivia to sit casually on a chair while he opened the door. Science Officer Neth stood there with 2 other Zelnari. All 3 held scanning devices pointed at Jack. Engineer Mitchell, Neth said, we are detecting unusual energy patterns in your quarters. Have you noticed anything strange? Jack tried to look surprised. No, nothing strange. The room is very comfortable. Neth's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Our sensors indicate that ancient subsystems are activating throughout the ship. The timing corresponds with your arrival. Maybe it's just a coincidence, Jack suggested. The Zelnari behind Neth moved their scanning devices around the doorway. One made a chirping sound. This human has elevated stress markers, it said to Neth. Heart rate increased, perspiration detected. Neth looked at Jack with all 4 eyes. We will investigate further. Please remain in your quarters until we complete our scan. After they left, Jack let out a long breath. That was close. Too close, Olivia agreed. But now I'm curious too. What is it about humans that's activating their ship? Jack smiled slowly. Only one way to find out. That night, after most of the Zelnari crew had retreated to their rest chambers, Jack and Olivia snuck out of their quarters. They moved quietly through the dimly lit corridors. According to the map I saw, Jack whispered, there's a large room 2 levels down that lit up brightly when I touched the wall. They found a transport tube that worked like an elevator. Inside, Jack pressed his hand against the control panel. Immediately, lights flickered on that hadn't been there before. It's responding to your touch, Olivia said in amazement. The tube began to move, taking them deeper into the ship than any human had gone before. When the doors opened, they gasped. They stood at the entrance to a vast chamber filled with glowing crystals and floating displays. The technology looked different from the rest of the ship, more organic, more fluid. This doesn't look like Zelnari technology, Olivia said. Jack stepped forward and reached out toward a crystal column in the center of the room. As his fingers made contact, the entire chamber came to life. Displays appeared in the air, showing star maps and strange symbols. A voice spoke, louder than before. Human DNA pattern confirmed. Welcome, descendant. Access granted to the archive of the predecessors. Jack and Olivia looked at each other with wide eyes. Predecessors, Jack whispered. What does that mean? The voice answered as if it had heard him. The predecessors were the ones who came before. The ones who seeded the stars with life. The ones whose blood runs in your veins. Jack stared at the floating displays, his mouth open in shock. Olivia moved closer to the center of the room, her scientist's mind racing with questions. Ask it something, she urged Jack. Jack cleared his throat. Who were the predecessors? The voice answered smoothly. The predecessors were an advanced species that explored the galaxy 50,000 years ago. They visited many worlds and left their technology throughout the stars. And they're connected to humans somehow? Jack asked. Correct. The predecessors found primitive humans on Earth. They saw potential in your species and modified your genetic code. They added their own DNA to yours. Olivia gasped. That's why the ship responds to Jack's touch. We share DNA with the builders of this technology. Jack ran his hand along a control panel, and more displays appeared. They showed images of tall, elegant beings with 6 fingers and slightly elongated heads. They looked almost human, but not quite. Do the Zelneri know about this? Jack asked. The Zelneri acquired this vessel 300 years ago, the voice explained. They can use its basic functions but cannot access the predecessor systems. These remain dormant until activated by compatible DNA. Jack and Olivia looked at each other, understanding the importance of what they have found. We need to learn everything we can, Olivia said. This changes human history. Jack nodded and placed both hands on the main crystal. Information flooded the displays: star maps, scientific data, historical records. This is too much, he said. We can't process all this. Download available data to portable storage, the voice offered. A small compartment opened in the wall, revealing what looked like a crystal thumb drive. Yes, please, Jack said, taking the device. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. We've been discovered, Olivia said, looking worried. The voice spoke again. Warning, non-compatible life forms approaching. Security protocols activating. The doors to the chamber began to close. Jack grabbed Olivia's hand and pulled her toward the exit, but they were too late. The doors sealed shut, trapping them inside. What now? Olivia asked. Jack looked around frantically. There must be another way out. He touched different panels, searching for help. One panel showed a map of the ship with a blinking dot marking their location. Several more dots were moving toward them quickly. Those must be the Zelneri, Jack said. They're coming for us. Outside the door, they heard voices. The translator caught fragments. Unauthorized access, human interference, ancient systems. Ambassador Vrok's voice rose above the others. Open this door immediately. Jack looked at Olivia. I don't think we're in trouble. I think they're scared of what we found. Olivia nodded slowly. This technology could change the balance of power. If humans can use systems that Zelneri can't. The pounding on the door grew louder. Jack Mitchell, Ambassador Vrok called. We know you are in there. This area is restricted. You are violating diplomatic protocols. Jack took a deep breath and touched the door control. I think we need to face them. The door slid open to reveal Ambassador Vrok surrounded by 8 Zelneri security officers. They all wore protective suits and carried devices that might have been weapons. Explain yourselves, Vrok demanded. We were exploring, Jack said simply, and we found something interesting. Vrok's 4 eyes narrowed. You were explicitly told not to touch anything. Now you have activated ancient systems we barely understand. Science Officer Neff pushed through the group, holding a scanner aimed at Jack. Ambassador, these readings are unprecedented. The human's bioelectric field is interacting with the ship's core systems. Vrok turned to Neff. Is he damaging the ship? No, Neff replied, sounding surprised. He's enhancing it. Efficiency has increased 27% in all connected systems. Jack smiled slightly. It seems the ship likes me. Vrok was not amused. This technology is property of the Zelneri Confederation. You have no right to access it. Actually, Olivia stepped forward. This ship was built by a species called the predecessors. They had a connection to humans. That's why Jack can activate systems you can't. The Zelneri security officers whispered among themselves. Vrok's skin changed color slightly, a sign Jack recognized as stress. These claims require verification, Vrelk said. Both of you will return to your quarters under guard while we discuss this development. As they were led away, Jack whispered to Olivia, "Did you notice?" He didn't deny knowing about the predecessors. Olivia nodded. "I think there's a lot the Zelnari haven't told us about this ship, or about humanity's place in the galaxy." Jack and Olivia spent the next day confined to their quarters. Guards stood outside their doors. The other 4 humans were told only that there had been a security incident. Jack paced his room, thinking about everything they had learned. The crystal data drive was hidden under his mattress. He had tried to activate it, but nothing happened. Maybe it needed special equipment. That afternoon, his door opened. Ambassador Vrelk entered with Science Officer Neth. "We have questions," Vrelk said coldly. Jack sat on his bed. "I have answers, and questions of my own." Neth stepped forward, holding a scanning device. "Our analysis confirms that your touch activates predecessor systems. How did you know this would happen?" "I didn't," Jack replied honestly. "I was just curious." "Curiosity is dangerous," Vrelk said. "Your actions have created a diplomatic problem." Jack leaned forward. "Why?" "Because humans can use technology that Zelnari can't." Vrelk's skin darkened with emotion. "Because there are forces in the galaxy that hunt for active predecessor technology. You may have put us all in danger." Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The lights turned red. The floor vibrated beneath their feet. Neth checked a device on her wrist. Her 4 eyes widened in fear. "Ambassador, 3 Vulturi warships just appeared from hyperspace. They're approaching fast." "Vulturi?" Jack asked. "A hostile species," Vrelk explained quickly. "They collect predecessor technology by force." A voice came over the ship's communication system. A Zelnari officer spoke rapidly. "Ambassador, the Vulturi are demanding we surrender the ship. They say their sensors detected active predecessor systems." Vrelk turned to Jack with all 4 eyes blazing. "See what you've done. They would have passed us by if the ancient systems remained dormant." The ship shook violently. Jack nearly fell off the bed. "They're firing warning shots," Neth said. "Our shields are holding, but they won't last long against concentrated fire." Vrelk pressed a communication device. "Prepare to launch escape pods. We cannot let the Vulturi capture this vessel." "Wait." Jack stood up. "Let me help." "How could you possibly help?" Vrelk asked. "The ship responds to me," Jack said. "Maybe I can activate defensive systems." Neth looked at Vrelk. The human might be right. "Our weapons are minimal, but predecessor ships were known to have powerful defenses." Another explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered. "Very well," Vrelk said reluctantly. "But if you make things worse." Jack nodded. "I understand. Take me to the control center." They ran through corridors filled with panicking Zelnari. When they reached the bridge, Jack saw the threat through a large viewing window. 3 black ships shaped like arrowheads surrounded the Zelnari vessel. They fired energy beams that made the shields glow blue. "Shield strength at 40%, a Zelnari officer reported. "We cannot withstand much more." A harsh voice came through the communication system. "Zelnari vessel, this is Commander Drav of the Vulturi Collectors. Your ship contains active predecessor technology. Surrender now or be destroyed." Jack stepped forward. "Where are the main controls?" The Zelnari captain pointed to a crystal console. "But our weapons cannot harm Vulturi ships." Jack approached the console and placed both hands on it. Immediately, the crystals glowed brighter. The ship hummed with energy. "Something's happening," Neth said, checking her scanners. Power levels rising throughout the ship. Jack closed his eyes, somehow feeling the ship's systems connecting with his mind. He could sense defensive capabilities dormant for thousands of years. "I found something," he said. "Some kind of energy weapon built into the hull." Vrelk moved closer. "Can you activate it?" The ship shook again. "Shield strength at 20%. The officer called out. Jack focused on the defense system he had sensed. I think so. Here goes nothing. He pushed energy toward the dormant weapons. The entire ship vibrated. Outside, portions of the hull shifted and changed shape. Strange devices emerged from hidden compartments. Predecessor defense grid activating. The ship's voice announced. Target lock acquired. Beams of golden light shot from the ship toward the Vulture vessels. The first beam hit the lead ship, cutting through its shields like they weren't there. The Vulture vessel split in half and exploded. Everyone on the bridge stared in shock. By the stars, Vrelk whispered. A single shot. The other two Vulture ships tried to flee, but the predecessor weapons fired again. One ship was disabled, drifting helplessly. The third jumped into hyperspace and escaped. Jack removed his hands from the console, feeling suddenly tired. The weapons retracted back into the hull. The bridge was silent. Then every Zelneri turned to look at Jack. "What are you?" the captain asked. News of the battle spread quickly through the ship. Jack became a hero to the humans, but remained a mystery to the Zelneri. They watched him with a mixture of fear and respect as he walked through the corridors. 3 days after the Vulture attack, a message arrived from Earth. The Zelneri Council and human governments wanted emergency talks about what had happened. They're calling it the predecessor incident, Olivia told Jack as they sat in her quarters. Earth governments are excited about the technology we might access. Jack sighed. I didn't ask for any of this. I just touched some walls. You did more than that, Olivia said. You changed the balance of power in the galaxy. That afternoon, they were called to a meeting room. Ambassador Vrelk sat with 5 other Zelneri officials. Their skin colors shifted nervously as Jack entered. The Galactic Confederation has called an emergency session, Vrelk announced. We will travel to the Confederation space station immediately. Why? Jack asked. To discuss the human problem, one of the officials said. Problem. Olivia stepped forward. Jack saved your ship. Vrelk raised a hand to calm everyone. Some species see humans as a threat now. If you can activate predecessor technology, what else might you do? There is talk of quarantining Earth. That's ridiculous, Jack said. We didn't even know about any of this until you contacted us. The ship changed course, heading to the edge of the solar system. From there, it jumped into hyperspace. Jack watched through a window as stars stretched into lines of light. He felt sick, but also amazed. 2 days later, they arrived at a massive space station. It looked like a giant wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked along its rim. Welcome to Unity Station, Vrelk said, the meeting place of the Galactic Confederation. Jack, Olivia, and the other 4 humans were given special suits to wear. The station had different air than they were used to. As they walked through the station, they saw aliens of many different species. Some looked like insects, others like plants or birds. There are 57 species in the Confederation, Vrelk explained. Most have never seen a human before. They entered a large round room. Representatives from each species sat in raised seats arranged in circles. The humans were led to a platform in the center. An alien with purple skin and 6 arms spoke first. The council recognizes Ambassador Vrelk of the Zelneri. Present your findings on the human DNA connection. Vrelk stepped forward. Our scientists have confirmed that humans share genetic markers with the predecessors. This allows them to activate predecessor technology that has been dormant for millennia. Murmurs spread through the council. A large insect-like alien clicked its mandibles. This is concerning. If humans can control predecessor weapons, they are dangerous. We're not dangerous, Jack interrupted. We didn't even know about this connection until a few days ago. The 6-armed alien leaned forward. You destroyed a Vulture warship with a single shot. They attacked us first, Jack argued. The point remains, said another alien with features like a lizard. Humans now have access to the most powerful technology in the galaxy. We propose that Earth be quarantined until we can assess the threat. Olivia stepped forward. That's not fair. You can't cut us off from the galaxy just because you're afraid. As the debate grew heated, a side door opened. A group of Zelneri entered, but these wore different clothes than Ambassador Vrelk and his team. Their robes were simpler, without official markings. One of them approached Jack quietly. I am Professor Zilv of the Zelneri Science Academy. My colleagues and I wish to speak with you privately. About what? Jack asked. About your connection to the predecessors, Zilv whispered. We believe there is much more to learn, and not all Zelneri fear this discovery. Jack looked at the arguing council members. None were paying attention to him now. What do you suggest? Jack asked. Zild's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. There are rumors of a predecessor temple on a distant moon. If you helped us access it, we could learn the true history of both our species. Jack thought about it. Working with these scientists might help prove that humans weren't a threat. I'll help, he said, but we need to tell Earth what's happening. They need to be part of this. Zilv nodded. Agreed. We must work together now. As they spoke quietly, the council continued to debate the fate of human-alien relations, unaware that a new alliance was already forming. 1 month after the council meeting, Jack found himself on a small research ship headed toward a distant moon. The Galactic Confederation had reached a compromise. Humans would be allowed to explore their connection to the predecessors, but under strict supervision. The ship was called the Seeker, crewed by 5 Zelneri scientists and 3 humans, Jack, Olivia, and Steve Kelly, a linguist from Australia. Professor Zilv led the expedition. We are approaching Lunara 7, Zilv announced as they dropped out of hyperspace. Sensors indicate predecessor energy signatures on the surface. Jack looked through the viewing port at the moon below. It was smaller than Earth's moon, with a blue-green surface and thick atmosphere. How did you find this place? Jack asked. Zilv's eyes blinked in their typical sequence. Ancient Zelneri texts mention a place where the predecessors left their greatest secrets. We found coordinates hidden in your ship's database after you activated its systems. The Seeker entered the moon's atmosphere and descended toward a large structure visible from orbit. As they got closer, Jack saw it was a massive temple built into the side of a mountain. The building was made of a black material that seemed to absorb light. It's huge, Olivia said in awe. At least a mile across. They landed on a flat area near the temple entrance. Everyone put on environmental suits before stepping outside. The air was breathable but thin, and the gravity was lighter than Earth's. Jack felt like he could jump 10 feet high with little effort. The team approached the temple entrance, a tall doorway with strange symbols carved around it. The door itself was solid black, with no visible handle or control panel. Our scans show it's been sealed for at least 40,000 years, Zilv said. No one has entered since the predecessors disappeared. Jack stepped forward. Should I try to touch it? Zilv nodded. That is why you are here. Jack placed his hand on the black door. At first, nothing happened. Then the symbols around the doorway began to glow with blue light. The door vibrated under his palm and slowly slid open. Cool air rushed out from inside. Lights flickered on automatically, illuminating a long hallway that stretched deep into the mountain. It worked, Jack said, smiling. The team entered cautiously. The hallway was wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side. The walls were covered with intricate carvings showing star systems and what appeared to be the history of the predecessors. The story of a civilization, Steve said, studying the carvings. They recorded everything here. As they moved deeper into the temple, more lights activated in response to Jack's presence. They entered a vast chamber with a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness above. In the center stood a crystal pedestal. This must be the main control hub, Zilv said. Jack, can you activate it? Jack approached the pedestal and placed both hands on it. The crystal glowed brightly, and holographic displays appeared all around them. The images showed star maps, DNA sequences, and alien worlds. A voice spoke in a language none of them recognized, but somehow Jack understood. "Welcome, child of Earth. You have found your inheritance." Jack looked at the others. "Did you understand that?" They shook their heads. The voice continued, speaking only to Jack. "Your species was our greatest project. We saw in primitive humans the potential for something extraordinary. We added our essence to yours, knowing that someday you would reach for the stars." Holographic images appeared showing early humans and tall, elegant predecessors working together. The images shifted to show the predecessors facing some kind of disaster. A dark energy spreading across the galaxy. "We faced extinction," the voice explained. "A force we could not defeat consumed our worlds. We scattered our knowledge across the galaxy, hoping our children would one day reclaim it." Jack felt overwhelmed. "Why me? Why humans? Your adaptability, your curiosity, your willingness to touch what others fear. These are the traits we valued, the traits we enhanced." The hologram showed Earth and dozens of other worlds with a blue light connecting them. "You are not alone," the voice said. "Other seeded species exist throughout the galaxy. Together, you can face what we could not." A final image appeared, a dark cloud moving through space, consuming stars. "The void returns," the voice warned. "Our ancient enemy stirs once more. That is why we awakened our legacy within you. The time has come." Jack looked at his friends, who were watching him with concern. "Jack," Olivia asked, "what's happening? You look pale." "We need to get this information back to Earth," Jack said urgently. "And to the Confederation. The predecessors left us a warning about something terrible coming our way." 6 months after the discovery at the predecessor temple, Jack stood at a window in the new Earth Embassy on Unity Station. He watched ships from a dozen worlds dock and depart. Each carried information about the void and preparations to face it. "Quite a view," said Olivia, joining him. "Hard to believe it all started because you couldn't keep your hands to yourself." Jack smiled. "Sometimes breaking the rules leads to important discoveries." The door opened, and Professor Zilv entered with Ambassador Vrelk. Both Zilnari looked different now, more relaxed around humans, less formal in their movements. "The Confederation Council is ready for your report," Vrelk said. Jack nodded and followed them to the council chamber. It was the same room where humans had once been called a threat. Now the mood was different. Representatives from all 57 species greeted Jack with respect. "Jack Mitchell of Earth," announced the six-armed chairperson. "Please share your findings from the predecessor archives." Jack stepped onto the central platform. Screens displayed data from the temple. "We've translated about 40% of the predecessor records," Jack began. "They confirm that several species in the Confederation carry predecessor DNA, not just humans." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "The Zelnari, Vorax, and Menti all have these genetic markers," Jack continued. "The predecessors modified many species, preparing for the return of the void." He touched a control panel, and images of the void appeared, a darkness that consumed stars and planets. "The void is a form of dark energy that destroyed the predecessor civilization," Jack explained. "They could not defeat it alone, so they created a plan spanning thousands of years. They modified promising species, each with different abilities, hoping we would work together when the void returned." "And you believe this threat is real?" asked a reptilian representative. "Our astronomers have detected unusual energy patterns at the edge of the galaxy," Jack said. "They match the predecessor descriptions of the void's early signs." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. "We have 2 years before it reaches inhabited systems," Jack said. "But we have something the predecessors didn't: each other." Jack touched another control, showing schematics of new technology. "Using the predecessor knowledge, we've developed defensive systems and energy shields, but they only work when species with different predecessor DNA markers work together." He turned to face the council directly. "That was their plan all along," he said. The predecessors knew no single species could stop the void. They made us different but complementary. Humans